Paul, you're in charge tonight.
I am.
You are in charge.
You are in charge.
How's business?
Like we were just saying, it's just ducky. Yeah, it's whatever. It never changes, right?
No.
Can't find enough help?
Right now, I got too many drivers. I don't have enough for them to do.
You don't?
No.
That's a switch.
It is a switch, and then and one guy, I'm like, well, anyways, yeah, I could go on. So it just, but don't let that guy go.
Yep.
6:29, planning board meeting for 7:15 of 21 is now open. Attendance, Kathy Bacon,
Here.
Marlo Herrick,
Here.
Adam Mock,
Here.
I'm Paul King, and I'm here. And Russell?
I hear.
We have a couple of people out. Kathy, would you like to be a member of the voting part of the planning board tonight
Certainly.
in place of,
Greg.
well, either Craig or, yeah, Craig's always here.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I don't have an agenda with me, so I gotta open up my.
Would you like an
iPad.
agenda?
And I can share, dude.
Yeah. I know.
I got one.
And that's why we keep Russell here. It's everything we need.
Okay, we got that done, that done. Item number 4 is making motions and motion amendments discussion. I'll turn this over to Russell.
Yep, so we had a couple motions that need to be amended from the last meeting that weren't addressed. So one of the things is, when Craig made the motion for the faxins, he called it the commercial exemption. We weren't approving the commercial exception, we were approving the site review plan. So we need to amend that motion. And the other one was for the wetlands and watershed. When we made that motion, we need to add to allow the subcommittee to make the changes that we've requested. So I have the motions here. If we want to amend those motions. Here we go. If you want them, Paul. We can just add those to the motions. So we just got to change the first one.
Oh, you put it in the nice
I
shape.
highlighted it, so we just need to change that to the site review plan.
Motion to approve the commercial exception for Benjamin Faxton at 299 Battle Street. We're gonna change that
To the site review plan.
motion to approve the site review plan.
Correct.
Okay,
Or the site review.
okay, site review. Do I have a motion in front of the board? Anybody want?
I move that we amend this to what Russell said?
The site review.
Site review.
And a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. That's all being recorded somewhere?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
We're live.
Sorry.
And the second one is to allow,
So we just need to add to
That's
the
good.
end of that, to allow the wetlands ordinance subcommittee to make the changes as requested.
okay?
I move that we make this amendment to allow the subcommittee to make the changes.
Okay. So
Second?
the other part of that discussion.
Oh.
So that was the other part of the discussion we're having, is because now we're going to be live. It's going to be, we should probably draft our, other planning boards tend to draft their motions ahead of time. For example, if you're going to do a site, they'll have like one person draft the, we're not going to approve it, and the other person draft the, we are going to approve it in the case you need one of them. That way we're not fumbling through the language when we make the motions. I just think because we're live, it might be better to have that stuff ready
So that's something that's done in advance of the
in
meeting?
advance. So the chair would assign one person to draft the disapprove amendment and one person to draft, a separate person to draft the approve amendment. That way, when the time comes to make the motions, we have the language ahead of time. That way, we're not fumbling through the motions.
You mean in somebody on the board?
Somebody on the board,
Yeah.
correct.
Fine.
So Craig would assign, say, Kathy, could you
Yeah.
draft this motion if it were to go this way, and then this person, and then ask Paul to do the other one.
Now, we need to
It's just a,
know in advance what's happening at the meeting.
Correct, so this is, say if we're doing a subdivision, you would draft, I approve the subdivision, and then leave the conditions blank for what the conditions are, but just have the language set up ahead of time,
Mhm.
so that you can just cleanly make the motion without having any confusion.
And then the list of the conditions would be the night of the
Right.
meeting. Okay.
Okay,
I think I.
And then you can write down the
Boy, that's-
conditions and then
that's
add it to
quite,
the
that's
motion.
quite involved.
Well, I'm just trying to think ahead of time, because we are live, and we should really make our motions succinctly and.
so this would be something that, if we have a question on, we could get a hold of you and.
Correct.
Kind of walk us through it, so.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was kind of the hope. But that was all I had on
Okay.
that part of the agenda. It was just, I wanted to say we should keep that in mind for the future.
On all these motions, do we have to like second and all say we're in favor of?
Right,
Okay, because we don't think we all said in favor, you know.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Like,
We're in
everybody has to
person?
verify
Yeah.
yes or no.
Yeah.
yeah, so we're in person, so I can see who made the motions. But when
Okay.
we were doing it on Zoom, we were required to do a roll call motion. I mean, you can still do a roll call motion. That's fine, that helps. But I can keep track of who voted and what happened.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
any more on the motions and motions?
That was it.
That was it. Mrs. Steele, was there some reason that you guys are here tonight, or just,
I saw on the agenda that there's a review of the minutes from last month, and I had sent an email to Russell about minutes from last month, so I just wanted to be here and listen and
I brought that with me.
see if how that transpired.
okay, where does that come up in the meeting?
So that is one of the last items on the agenda.
Okay.
We review the minutes.
Okay, so at the moment, then, we are
Well,
on.
we can, do we have to do it in order or?
I mean, we could review the minutes.
I mean,
now.
so the poor people, if you want to stay, you're welcome to. I just,
Yeah, I mean, we
could do it
yeah.
now. Yeah.
That's
Whatever-
not bad
Whatever
earlier.
you guys want to do.
yeah, I think we could review that now, couldn't we?
You can?
Yeah.
So I did, if you'll allow me,
Yep,
I
Yep.
did rewatch sections of the video or the audio to get clarification on what was said, to make sure that I was doing it the right way. But since I had already posted the minutes, I can't go back and make changes. So I summarized the language. Actually, why don't we just, we'll read what you suggested first.
Okay.
Okay, because I think that, so this was the email I received from Mrs. Steele, and this is what she requested to have amended. Following the statement, Ms. Steele stated that the insurance company, he stated that they could get a waiver if this had a sprinkler system. It should be noted that Mr. Bean stated that if we put a sprinkler system in with a 1,000-gallon water tank in the basement, he would be okay with a waiver. So that's the First Amendment request that they had made. And the second one was, it is also noted in the minutes that the waiver would have to be requested as part of the building permit process. This statement needs to be removed. It was never mentioned in the meeting, nor has it been mentioned to them. So I went in and rewatched that, and I confirmed the second one was correct. And then Emmett did say something about the sprinkler system. So I rewatched it, and I thought we could clarify the language. And we can play the audio if we have to again, if you guys have any different suggestions. To be road agent being stated that this should be signed off on by the insurance company. If it was him, he stated he would get 1,000 gallons of water in the basement and get a sprinkler alarm system set up. Ms. Steele thought that road agent Bean had mentioned a waiver. Road agent Bean responded that she would have to call the insurance company and discuss it with the planning board. Ms. Steele stated that she had called the insurance company and they had stated that they could get it insured if they had a sprinkler system. So that's, I think, a lot more accurate. I don't know if you think that's
great.
That's great? Okay. And then on the other section, I went and watched that again because that's what I thought I heard. But as from listening to it, this was something that Chairman Hemingway from the Select Board had commented on, and ex officio member Hemingway wanted to clarify that the waiver regarding not having the town respond to emergency calls was part of the certificate of occupancy / building permit. He didn't want to get this confused with the driveway permit application. So, I mean, there is a waiver for that in the building permit, but
Right.
that was not explicitly said.
That's something we can't,
So that would be granted by the select board or their agent
Yep.
as part of, so they would be waiving the entire driveway requirements. So you would be requesting to have a waiveway, like not even have a driveway.
So how about police protection and like ambulance if somebody gets hurt?
So that's what that's for. So that
Okay.
basically, you put an easement on the deed
So
that says the town is not responsible at all for providing emergency services to that house.
anything. So
Anything.
somebody gets
I think that's one of the things that was confusing
Correct.
last time. It is something that is recorded on the deed at the registry of deeds, and it is not something that would be effective for us, but then become ineffective in subsequent years, because there were some comments made about 100 years from now. That is not applicable, it's not relevant. That waiver would be recorded on the deed in perpetuity.
so anybody that buys that house gets nothing.
That is correct, and it is their duty, their due diligence, to do a title search and see that that waiver is on the deed, because they will be held to the standard of they either know or should know that that waiver is on the deed.
Now, where this gets sticky is this conversation was not had at this meeting, but I think it implies, since this is sticky, I feel like the minutes from the meeting last month don't fully, they make it seem like it was offered to us that you could get a waiver, but it has to be part of the building permit, and I do not feel that that was offered to me at that meeting.
Right.
And that's what I want to clarify.
The waiver was mentioned, but it wasn't offered.
Okay.
So that is correct, and that's
Okay.
why I'm suggesting that change. And then I have a couple other typos I wanted to fix that I
Okay.
found when I went over to check the minutes a second
And
time.
yeah, go ahead.
It sounds like from what you just said, if I understand, that is something that we would have to go to the select board for.
So it would be something that would fall under the building permit, because that's for the same thing as, say, building on a class 6 non-town road. It's basically the same process,
And that's through the select board.
and that would be through the select board.
Understood.
The only other thing, going back to what Mr. Bean said about the sprinkler system, I'm not sure. I feel like it's important to say that my understanding, and again, you'd have to get it from reading or listening to the audio again, but I thought he said if we put in a sprinkler system, he would be okay with the waiver, which was very important to me, and I'm not, is that,
He did.
it wasn't just that we said we got approval from the
Right.
insurance company, he said it would be okay with him as well. And since he makes this decision, I kind of want that in there, that he did agree at that meeting that if we did that, he would be okay with that. I realize that it's not giving us permission, but I
Right.
think it's important that he said that.
So if we want, does the board want to listen to that section of the video? Or
It's
the-
at about 6 minutes and 51
So
seconds.
it's at, well, in the video I did on Town Hall Streams, it has it, the discussion's at 14 minutes, 20 seconds is when he starts talking about it.
we're
Yes.
talking about the waiver as far as the driveway is concerned.
No, he's saying this, the way where if they had a sprinkler system.
Which would apply to the building permit,
I'm not sure what,
which you don't have.
I'm
That's
not
why-
sure what we're talking about as far as a waiver.
I know.
Well, no, we just want the minutes to reflect accurately what was said.
Yeah.
And since
okay.
they're planning board minutes, it's part of the planning board discussion. Even though that's select board,
Well, and
it's still in our
Kevin Bean is on
minutes.
neither one, so,
so it's up to you to decide.
I mean, that's what,
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Okay. See if I can follow all this. I did read up on what you said, but
Right.
if they're willing to sign a waiver,
Right.
hold on, so that when their building permit comes in front of the select board, right? But they've signed a waiver not holding the town liable for emergency services, let's say, correct? Then, and nothing against our road agent, but, or not that I would even, I'm just trying to say, why would it matter what he said?
That's kind of,
Or,
that's
It's
kind
for
of
the
how I.
fire is kind of where he's,
right, he's
He's
worried
at.
about not being able to get out there with the
Exactly.
fire out, but if
Right.
they're willing to sign,
right.
I'll,
Let that discussion be.
What happens if you break your neck up there? How are you getting out? That's a question I'm asking you.
Understood.
Yeah.
And that, the waiver puts that responsibility on us, and I guess more directly, it waives liability, municipal liability for emergency services, which would include
Yeah.
fire, police, E EMS.
So if somebody breaks in, steals everything you got, towns, you're good with that, that no police protection, any of that? Sheriff, whatever.
That's what the waiver does, yes.
But this is a discussion that would be had with the select board, correct?
And that's one of the
Right.
things that
Well,
I wanted to
that's what-
clarify, and it
yeah,
sounds
right.
like that's
That's,
the
yeah,
body that has the
right.
authority.
And when you
And I
have-
think that, again, that's why I kind of want to document it here, because it kept, it is all related, but it kept kind of getting dissolved from, we're trying to get a driveway permit to moving into the building permit. And somebody brought it back to this a couple times. We're trying to talk about a driveway permit. Are we going to approve this? And that's what I was coming to you all to say. I would like a permit for the driveway. I would like this to be acceptable to everyone so no one feels bad about it. What do I need to do? And I felt like I got a couple of straight answers, but one of them wasn't in there. I got a straight answer of, we need to have an engineer or a surveyor come in and tell us what's going to be good, and we are working on that. The other thing was kind of a backup of having a sprinkler system, and I felt like that wasn't fully documented in there, so I just wanted to make sure
Right.
that was appropriately, that's all.
Does your surveyor think that he could possibly I know those corners they're pretty bad coming down, especially the one on the top that comes down and into that curve pretty hard.
We're gonna meet with him.
Does he think he could straighten that out? Well, when I walked up it almost looked like if the road was set down, not,
I believe that he thinks it can be modified.
Yep.
We are going to meet with him to try and do that, because
Yeah.
that's our first choice.
okay,
I just wanted to make sure
Yep.
that there was a distinction between acquiring a driveway permit from the planning board and a waiver, which sounds like it would come from the select board. And if you have a waiver that eliminates the driveway that needs to be permitted,
mhm,
we want to be able to get a driveway permit that's approved, and we're working to try and accomplish that. I just wanted to make sure that I got the distinction between the waiver and the driveway permit, because it sounds like a waiver is a possibility. You would get it from the select board, and in that case, it is a waiver of municipal liability, and I understand what you're asking about with what if something happens up there?
Mhm.
Yes.
I have a quick question. If they got the waiver, then they fix the driveway, can they reapply to get a driveway permit? That may be a kind of a dumb question.
So that would be,
Do you see what I'm saying? If you guys later and
I understand
yeah,
exactly what
I
you're saying.
just-
It makes perfect logical sense to me,
I
yes.
think it would be possible, but there would be some
Would have to-
legal work that would have to be,
Yeah.
get the easement off the deed.
oh
They
right,
would have
yes,
to
you're
re-
doing yes.
They would have to resubmit the driveway application.
Well,
Right.
yes,
And like I said, I'd rather do it,
right,
I don't
That's
want
what
you
we're
all
trying
to
to
drive
do.
past that land every time and say, those guys got them. I want it to be acceptable, and we all say, okay, this is what we'd all like, let's see how we can work together to make it
so
acceptable
do you
for
think,
everyone. That's what I'm trying to
do you think your surveyor could take and get that kind of on a plan? I know he's
That
probably
is- that is
busy.
what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we get going with the driveway permits and all of this, try to work it out with the survey plan so we can get a pretty good handle of what really the elevations and all that.
Yes.
And obviously if they're surveying it all out, you're gonna take and change things. Is that correct to my understanding?
I believe he has some modification in mind, or he has possibilities that he wants to meet with us and discuss.
Okay, Yep,
I don't have anything more specific than that.
yep,
I will tell you two things that will make that a hard no for me. One is expense,
yeah,
because we do not have unlimited funds.
Yeah.
And the second is, the whole point of that land for me is that it's beautiful and it's
Yeah.
wild. And if it's gonna be the New York State Thruway going from Dustin Road to the top, I'm out. So we're trying to figure out how we can make this
yeah,
pleasing for everyone.
yeah,
So it's a beautiful piece. I want to preserve it as much as possible, but still be safe and acceptable to you guys. So we're trying to find that balance.
yeah.
So the other thing is, since they're here, do we want to sign the letter that we were gonna mail out, and we can just give you the letter? This was,
Okay.
this is the letter of what we discussed last meeting.
Yeah,
just
I
wanna
don't
make
put
sure
anybody
they're
on the spot.
okay with the
We can
letter.
leave for a second if you need to discuss it, whatever.
No. We've already heard
Oh, I
all
think
of
we
these, they
saw
were all
this,
brought
right?
up at the last
Yeah,
meeting,
that's
so it's
everything.
nothing new.
Oh,
I don't think it ever went out to each of us.
No.
Have you seen the letter?
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, the letter is for them, so we were.
Yeah, I know, but, okay.
Yeah, once it's,
If they have any more questions, so,
right, they reach out to me and then I will,
okay.
So when you say sign it, is Addie supposed to sign? Oh,
no, it was just gonna be
Looking at it.
either
Just looking
me
at it.
signing for
Okay.
the chair or Paul can sign it because he's the acting chair.
There you go.
Here you go, Paul.
Gets me off the hook.
I know, right? So you're only first look.
They're all the same thing, Paul.
That's why I asked, because it's more than one.
Yeah, I brought
So
more than
didn't
one
know, like,
copy
am I
because I was
supposed
gonna
to-
give you each your own copy.
Anybody have any comments or questions regarding the letter?
No, I think that's pretty much what we discussed, and that's pretty much it.
Take a motion?
We don't really need a motion to sign that because we already discussed it the last meeting. I just wanted to make sure the language was good for everybody.
Okay. Yeah. Which one do I sign? You got a special one?
You just sign the sincerely from the planning board, so.
You get to be on the top.
Just any old
right
one?
there.
Yeah, any of them?
Yeah, good to go.
All right. I'll give that to you. You can see the letter. So that's just what we
Right.
discussed at the last meeting.
Okay.
Stays
Going up.
postage. And I was gonna send a letter out with it explaining the appeal process and all of that for the ZBA if you wanted to take that option.
Okay.
Do you know what the appeal process is? You're familiar with that?
I'm not, but I don't think we're ready to appeal yet. I think we want to meet with the surveyor and see what we
Right.
can come
Good.
up with, and then I think we'll probably see you next month. But that's not, we need to meet with the surveyor first, and then we'll come back and
Okay.
talk to you all and see. Unless this is kicking us out of the town or something. We'll-
No, that's
We'll-
just,
We'll be
No.
back
God,
next
no.
month.
I just,
Sorry, welcome. I mean,
we
that's
thought it
so
would be
easy.
good to give you the written, what was discussed at the last meeting, what the
Okay.
decision is, so you can move forward from the
Okay.
decision.
All right,
Right.
perfect. I will be in touch.
Okay, sounds good.
Thanks for bumping this up, and
Yeah.
thanks for listening.
Yeah,
Thanks
no
for
problem.
coming.
All right,
Thank you.
have a good night.
Yeah, you too.
All right.
All right, next item on the agenda, planning board fee schedule.
Did we actually approve the agenda? Or not the agenda, did we?
So no, we haven't approved these
We haven't
minutes because there's still some typos I wanted to
Okay,
fix.
okay.
But do we want to go back and finish that? Okay.
Finish what?
Whatever you
Minutes.
draft.
The minutes, the draft of the
Minutes,
minutes.
Yep.
You wanna do that?
Whichever.
What do you think, kid?
Why not?
Why not?
So I tried to rush these minutes out, so that's why there's, because the, the subcommittee wanted them really fast. So there was a couple typos in there. So I forgot to add this one on
I wasn't even here. Okay, sure.
page 2. line 3, I added, she asked what the next steps were to move forward with the project. So I changed that language because that made no sense. Same page, line 9. Member Mock stated that a licensed surveyor could help them determine a better path based on the elevation. I thought that sounded a little bit better. The next one's the same page, line 22. Member King asked about the asphalt apron at the end of the driveway. Mr. and Mrs. Steele stated that the apron had already been rectified. So I wanted to add that. And then on page 3, line 4, the commercial exception would not go with the property. I forgot to put go there, so I wanted to add that. And then Chairperson Fournier asked if Ms. Roth could go over the recent changes to the ordinance before moving forward with taking a vote. And I removed the. Those were the changes I made. If the board wants to approve them.
Sure.
Sure.
Make a motion to approve them.
As amended, did we discuss how we wanted to handle these? The steel sentences? Are we going to change them to what I said? Okay.
Oh, I think that what you said was fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't want to.
So it was
I think
We have
that's.
a
Member Mock
motion. We have a
motion.
second?
I second that.
All in
Second.
favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Adam?
Yes.
Marla?
Marla?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Paul? Yes.
Unanimous. I like that.
Russell don't vote.
I don't know.
On to you, move here and get on the board.
Not allowed. Don't live in Webster.
No.
They're probably wishing something. No, anyways, yes.
All
Okay,
right.
so,
Got that one done. Okay, now we're going on to the fees and schedule now? Planning board fees?
So that was one. The select board is looking at redoing a lot of the fee schedule to take account for the new code enforcement position and to make sure that we're covering those costs. And since they're doing that, we're looking at all the fee schedules. And one major change that's happened to the planning board recently is that we're no longer required to put an ad in the newspaper. And those fees were determined with including the ad in the newspaper. So I didn't know if we wanted to lower the fees a little bit because we no longer need to take out that ad. So that saves anywhere from $50 to $150 off of that.
and how come?
What?
Just because who changed
Yeah.
that? I'm
State-
just curious.
The state legislature changed it
They
so
did?
that we could, instead of posting it in the newspaper, we could post it on the town's website.
Oh, okay.
'Cause
Moving up in the times, kind of
nobody
like.
really
Read
uses newspapers anymore.
Yeah.
So I'm
So-
still in the ice age.
Yeah, you read your Concord Monitor every morning, don't
I
you?
do.
You're not gonna see
The
it
first
in
thing that opens is that page.
there. You say I'm not on it.
What is the cost of the, notice now,
So right now it's $250
which is paid for
by the applicant.
applicant?
Yeah.
So I'm thinking it's reasonable to maybe lower it by $50, I think would cover it, because we still have administrative costs before it. And the last time these fees were done were a couple of years ago, so there has been a little inflation on other costs, such as mailing and paper and all that. But I think we do have a little wiggle room if we wanted to change some stuff. And as it states in the RSAs, we can charge any fees that are additional on top of that were not necessary onto the applicant. For example, if we needed to have an additional mailing or an ad, we could place that charge,
It would be passed on to the applicant,
would be passed on to the applicant.
regardless if it's above the $200 or $250, whatever it is.
Right, the board can do that.
Okay.
We don't do that because we typically include it in the fee to begin with.
And this won't affect the impact fees?
No, impact fees are separate.
Is that, okay.
So that is something the board can discuss if they want to do that, but that's typically.
Do we have any discussion on lowering that from 250 to 200?
Sounds all right to me.
Me too.
Aye.
Same to
As
me.
long, I
Right.
guess,
Absolutely.
Well,
Yeah.
we
I guess as
really-
long as we can recoup any other losses above and beyond it.
Right, so
in the
right
future.
now, the next step after we agree to do it is I have to figure out how to actually change the fee and whether that's a public hearing from the select board or a public hearing from the planning board. Because it might be wrapped up in a public hearing from the select board
Mhm.
to change the fee schedule, and that would be included in it, or it has to be two separate public hearings. But I wanted to bring it up first before I brought up the,
Or
the-
we could just leave it alone.
or you could just leave it alone. That is the other option.
Oh, look at,
Uh,
we just look like we're trying to save
If
people money.
if we leave it alone, the applicant would have to pay the 250. If we
$50.
couldn't prorate it down for him or her.
So the way it works is because we're trying to be uniform and consistent with everybody,
Okay.
is we charge the same amounts.
Okay.
Could get in trouble.
Yeah.
Is everybody 200? Is that what the most?
That would change it to 200 if we did the public hearing and change the
Yeah.
schedule. Right now, it's $250 plus the $25 L-chip fee, but that doesn't go to us, that goes to the registry of deeds. And then $10 for each abutter, because we have to send out certified mailers.
Right, yeah,
So basically we're 280
Yeah,
or
or
more.
more.
or more.
So right now, if we agree to 200, that's just basically to you,
Right.
so that you're gonna go back to.
I'm gonna go to the
Change.
select
Right,
board and then
yes.
figure out what the next step is from there, and then get back to the board probably by the next meeting.
But they
And
would
say
still,
what
they
we
would
wanna
still
do.
need the other extra $30. So
For,
we're actually wind up being 230.
so that's up to the board of what the price
If we
is.
did the 200, I'm saying.
If you did the 200, it would be 200 for the application fee.
Yep.
Those are other fees on top of it, because the L-chip has to be paid
Yep.
by the property owner. We
Mhm.
can't include that in our fees, it has to be a check made out by them.
Yeah, okay.
And then the abutter fees, that changes because depending on how many abutters there are.
Any discussion? I would almost say we leave it alone. But it's up to the board.
So it would be $50 off.
$50 for, is it worth the hassle that we may have to go through though?
What
Or
do you-
somebody,
what
or
are
somebody
other
has to
We
towns?
go
don't know
through.
what the hassle is yet. I'm sorry, that's all, that's why I was
So I-
clarifying.
That's one of the things I'm trying not to do with the charging what other towns
Right,
do.
but I'm just curious, that's all, I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't looked at what other
Yeah.
towns charge, because, that wasn't one of my considerations.
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out based on what.
So if we take the 50 off, we could cover everything and make it would
Right,
be all
because we're
right.
saving about, and like I said, anywhere from 50 to 150, depending how many words are in the ad,
Yeah,
without having one in the newspaper.
yeah,
However, there are times where we might want to consider putting the ad in the paper anyway.
Mhm.
For example, if it was something we considered to be a contentious project, we'd want to do more adding than less,
yeah.
but that would be up to the board.
And that could be passed on to the.
To the
Because that's when you
Yeah.
said that extra, if needed for whatever reason, it would be passed on. This is
Correct.
just because by state law, we do not have to put an ad in the paper.
Correct.
So I guess that'd be all right. I mean,
I'm always looking to save people money.
no, it's all good, but
Yeah.
it's just
But if it's a real,
thing
like,
of it
I
is-
get what you guys are saying, by the time we get done, if we spend,
gonna be
Oh,
you're gonna be
500.
wasting all kinds of time,
But
and
we
then
don't know that yet.
a
That's
meeting
what
on
I'm-
its
that's-
own for $50.
well, I think it's a meeting on its own, right?
Well, it would have to be through the selectmen, correct?
So
And
it-
then,
Right, it's a
Plan
public
for it.
hearing, and the public hearing is reopen it. You've been through one of, I think,
Right.
one of them with the select board.
But
as
aren't
well.
they, so
It's the
you-
same steps.
but they're, if it's part of the select, they're gonna be, you said they're looking at all the fees.
All the fees.
Right, so that's not just one meeting for us and our $50, right? That's
True.
what, right.
Right,
that's what-
we're doing a whole bunch of fees at the same
Yeah.
time. So
So,
that's why we wanted to get it all together at one time, so we wouldn't have to do it piecemeal
Yeah.
or scattershot over the next few years.
are you dropping some of the other fees too, the prices?
So from what it looks like, we might have to up the inspection fees a little bit to account for the new code enforcement position. But all the other fees look pretty good from what I've done my
Yeah.
research on.
So how much would that fee be going up?
So my suggestion is $10.
Oh, yeah.
It's not a lot, but it's just enough to cover some of the things that weren't accounted for the first time. For example, if somebody has to go out for a re-inspect or some of that stuff.
Yeah. Well, if you don't think it's too much of a hassle, let's
Just
drop
a
it.
public hearing,
Yeah.
and we don't have to put an ad in the paper anymore, so there's no really huge additional cost for that.
Yeah, so that sounds all right. don't you think?
Now, if you guys go to the select board and have the fees changed and they don't approve this, it automatically goes back to the 250?
So yeah, if it wasn't approved, it would go back to, it would stay at the 250. It only changes if it wasn't approved.
Okay.
And it might be the planning board that has to do the public hearing to do the approval. I couldn't find clarified language on how that would happen. But I know the select board has to go through a public hearing to change the fees.
So we would do the public hearing just for ours or for all of them?
That is the question I've been looking up right now.
Okay.
Which we're hoping it's for all fees,
I'm
right?
hoping it's for
Yeah,
all fees.
Yeah, because I think that's kind of what Addie's saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or, and you are saying,
That's
you were
what I
saying,
said.
sorry, yeah, both of you.
One time.
Yeah, one time done, so
Yeah.
it's not like,
And if
we're
it's
not spending the money doing
If
it.
it's gonna be more than once, then we'll just let it rip.
However, the ZBA's got to stay the same because they still have to do that.
Yeah, so if they don't agree, then,
Yeah.
well,
Okay, so right now, the thing is, we're asking him to go ahead and look into this.
Right.
yes.
That's it. Do we have to make a motion for this, or?
No, this is just a discussion.
And then you will have information next month.
Correct.
There we go. So,
About a $50,
About a 50.
about the $50.
Well, like
Half
I
a-
said, I want to.
Half a bucket
We
of
want to
oil.
do it all at once.
right, right, okay.
Yeah, no, I mean, let's hope that's what it works, that should how it works.
All right.
Okay, so all agreed that it's going down to 200?
That we discussed it,
We
Right.
discussed
We
it.
discussed
We
it.
discussed it, it could go down to 200,
that's right.
Could go down.
Perfect.
subject to approval by whoever.
Whoever. When that time comes.
Next item, future topics for the planning board. Russell?
So that
How'd
was,
you like to
I have a
start?
couple things that people have brought up to me. So one was a topic is that I think one of the residents, Mr. Fandoy, thought it would be a good idea to maybe put out some knowledge of saying how far we've gone into the master plan, so what we've accomplished up to this date. And to see if that was something we could research
Mm.
and sort of pull together and see what's been done and what still needs to be done. So that's a future topic we could bring up.
The master plan is something that the planning board updates every 10 years.
Yep.
And we did it in 18,
Yeah, the last
Yeah,
time it was done in
but-
so we
2018.
won't be doing it again until,
But,
28,
yeah,
so.
but that was
But
before
you
the
can do it
pandemic,
sooner.
you know, and,
we can do it sooner, yeah. It's a long process, it involves a lot of people, but
yeah.
it's gone smoothly. The last time when I did it, it's gone pretty smoothly, so. it's
But I know
good.
some of the things that we talked about were increased conversations between the boards and other things, and I don't know, has any of that occurred?
Well, that's one of the things
That's
we
one
want
of
to
the
look
things we
into.
should look at, yeah. And, but I mean, I'm also saying, all that was updated, we had all those meetings, that was before the pandemic. You know, I don't know what things slowed down.
Well, some of it has happened, because
Some
I
of
was
it,
looking
yeah.
it over
That
today,
would
and
be
some of the
good.
stuff, I was surprised how much of it had actually
that's-
happened.
This is an excellent topic for the planning board.
Yeah, because I was surprised that, you know, in the recommendations, I would say a little bit more than half of the ones I briefly went over had happened
Oh,
and are happening. There were a couple that weren't,
yeah,
but that might be due to the pandemic and certain things weren't able to happen. But I think it's a good way to get us on track, or at least address it and see what we're doing, what we think we can do, and make steps. It was just a thought.
it's a good thought.
Is there a place for like public comment too on the master plan? Or is
So
that
that's
not-
what one of the parts of the master plan was done basically through public comment.
Yeah.
So they did surveys and asked questions of residents of what they wanted the community to look like going forward. They had about 200 respondents.
Oh,
That's just for
pretty
the
good.
survey, and then there were 20 or 30 people in the meetings.
Yeah.
There were lots of meetings, yeah.
Yeah.
In different subgroups. Yeah.
So they're gonna, you got stuff that's already made changes since 2018, is that
Right.
correct?
So some of the recommendations have been done.
Yeah.
For example, getting us on the Regional Transportation Committee. We have members on there now. And there are a couple ones where different boards talking to each other a little bit more and trying to do some stuff in Pillsbury Lake. I don't know if that one happened, but
What do you think's gonna happen down there?
Well, they wanted to get the Conservation Commission more involved in helping them with the lake, and those were the recommendations that I can remember off the top of my head. And they also wanted better communication between the Select Board and the Pillsbury Lake Board, which actually has been happening. Because they've been working jointly on the Concord Drive project to have Emmett and then do the pipe replacement in conjunction with the paving of the road.
Yeah.
So they don't have to rip it up a second time and then repave it. You can do it all at once.
So are they getting a new water system down there? Is that what's going on down there?
No, they're just replacing some pipes on Concord
Pipes,
Drive.
the water lines?
Right.
Yeah. And so I thought there was something else that was happening. They were gonna drill some put water lines in. Is there only like 30-something houses left on that system?
You'd have to ask the Pillsbury Lake Commission that one. I don't know how many houses are on there.
I don't know.
I don't know
just
either. Like,
forward, I heard there was only like 33 houses left on the water system that they have, and it seemed like they were gonna spend, or were getting $500,000 to redo some of the stuff. Is that correct?
like I said, that's a
That you
that's a
don't, you didn't
Pillsbury
hear
Lake.
it? Yeah, okay. Yeah.
So
'Cause
this thing that I'm sorry, were you finished?
Yeah, for a second.
Oh.
Do,
No, I was
do you
just-
live down there?
No, I
No.
don't.
Oh.
I actually live just down the street from her.
Oh, yeah.
I'm in a pocket.
Yeah.
What I was going to say is, first thing when we talk about getting an update on this, it would be an update for us, not a
Right.
public hearing. That would be the second step. Or not a public, but I mean,
Right.
the suggestion was public wants to be updated on
So we
what's
could
happening.
make, say,
But-
a bullet list and say this is what's been done and these are the updates.
But first, that we would discuss amongst ourselves, and then at a future meeting,
Right.
that would
So
be
for example, I
done.
could compile the list of recommendations and categorize them and supply that to the board, and then we can go over what we think's been accomplished and maybe send out
Yeah.
to the other boards that were supposed to do
Yeah.
tasks and say, what have you done on these steps, please, if you could respond to that.
Okay.
And then go from there.
I didn't think you would just willy-nilly put out a public thing, but anyway, that's what I was hoping.
Yeah, I mean, I had a plan. I mean, I only was informed of this afternoon, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna do a little research
Good
and see
idea.
what I can find.
Okay.
And I know there was comments about looking at the driveway regulations and maybe making that application process a little easier. And I think this is a good opportunity because we've had recently people who have had difficult times getting a driveway permit. And maybe we could interview them and ask them.
How did that, when they come up, the regulations that we have in place right now was via the town vote, right?
So the driveway regulations, Paul might know this more, but usually when they amend them, it's done at a public hearing.
Yes.
Oh, so it's not done through the town.
They may have been
We didn't vote
first
on it.
adopted.
Not through voting.
good, 'cause I hope I didn't vote
Public
on it.
hearings at a planning board meeting.
Yeah,
Right.
because they're not, a lot of our driveway requirements are a lot different from other towns. So that's why I was just wondering if there was something, but that's something to be discussed, right?
Correct, and that was
Yes,
another topic
yeah.
that could be discussed. That I thought might be worth discussing.
I would like to add that
I
topic.
mean, one of the, I guess we can bring it up, but the whole issue of whether you have more than one cut through on the road, that there was a misunderstanding at some point of the New Hampshire driveway regs, that, do you remember this, Paul, that before we were telling people that they couldn't have more than one unless they have at least 300 feet, and then that's wrong?
Right.
Yeah, that was wrong, and so that's what we need to make sure that's really
Well,
clear.
that was,
Yeah, well,
I don't remember exactly all of what it was all about, but there was some discussion about, they have to have 500 feet in order to have 2 curb cuts on the road.
so we need to look this up again. That whatever we were telling people was not correct. And
For
that,
some reason or other, Sue agreed that it was not correct, but I don't remember why.
so that, do you know what I'm talking about though?
So that was before me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, well,
I could look up the minutes and see if I can find it in the
So-
minutes. Did you have a year it might have been discussed to kind of narrow it down for me if I'm going to go look for it?
just before Teresa retired.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So it was recently.
But it was a recent, well, I've been on the board.
Fairly recent, yeah.
Yeah, because I've been on the board since 2017, and this has
Okay.
come up with several things. And in this case, the homeowner went and looked up New Hampshire law, and then we looked at it and said, oh, that's not what we understood. And so, yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
That was it, and so, anyway.
I'm just writing that down so I don't forget it. No, I think that's kind of how the process goes. If we
Yeah,
get
yeah.
feedback from people who have gone through the process and kind of say, what do you think would make this a little bit easier?
Yeah, if we can get feedback from the person that's complaining about it, we can look at it and possibly make some changes.
Right.
But if we don't know what the problem is, we can't
We
fix it.
can't address it. That's kind of what I'm getting at.
So you think the Steels will be here first?
I think they will be. Well, it's kind of,
Well, and I'm a little
In
bit
their case, they put the driveway went in without a permit. They didn't get any of the permit application from the
well,
town.
they had applied before and
Right.
gotten a permit, but then the permit, they renewed it and then it expired, and then they built the driveway after a year or two after it had been expired.
Right.
And Teresa
So-
informed them they would need to reapply again, but they never reapplied again.
But the other ones that, it seems to me the other ones that have been a problem have been this kind of thing where they didn't have a permit and they built something, and then it didn't conform, and then we get into trying to help them. Because we always try to help.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, right, we don't wanna make it.
That one
No.
there, I need no is beyond help, that
That was-
driveway.
Yeah, because I was
Have
supposed to
you
go
been
look
over
at,
it?
no, and I'd like to look at it, because
I
yeah.
wouldn't take that down, I wouldn't take a log truck down there with chains all the way around, no, not in the winter. And the thing of it is, it's like, back years ago when I was a road agent, Lamprone's house burned up there. And
So you have some-
that was like a sleet, freezing rain, and you could not lug enough sand and salt to that road. Well, that house was burnt, it was done, I mean, it was no place, nothing you gonna do about it. But there was so many fire trucks, and that driveway, I don't want no part of it, because it's like, we know everybody in town, we're friends with them all, and we bought those trucks. I can guarantee you, they'd get up there, but they ain't getting back down. And I don't care if they were chained up. And so it's like,
Well, we
that
always know that doesn't
driveway.
work either.
Huh?
We've all slid in chains too.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean,
Yeah.
I've crashed before, it's
Even,
like, it's not, and it wasn't my
Even if they
fault.
were to completely asphalt that roadway.
No,
driveway,
no,
you still
I'm
would
not,
no.
I'll tell you right now, it's like, it's,
Still couldn't-
those two curves, when you come in,
Well,
if
we
you
should-
made it to the top, you'd be
We're
lucky.
gonna discuss their driveway, we should
Yeah, yeah.
notice them and let them
I
know
was
we're
gonna
gonna have
say,
a
I'm still
discussion.
being
Yeah.
recorded.
Right, we have to,
We are recorded,
yeah, we
Yes,
are
we
being
are.
Oh, sorry.
recorded, so
Yeah.
we would have to
So-
invite them to discuss their driveway.
Yeah.
Right,
yeah,
Yeah.
sorry.
yeah, so.
But, no, it's worth it, and I think that one of the things that gets a little confusing for people, and Paul, I think can attest to this, we've had this conversation, it's never the short driveways that cause issues, it's always the ones that are over the 300 feet.
Mhm. Yeah,
So those are the
hard
confusing ones.
Those are the hard ones.
Yeah. I think figuring out how to make that a little easier, I think, would benefit everybody.
Yeah.
Maybe we fix the application, make that a little clearer, or, I
That
don't
you
know.
just don't get it.
yeah.
Well, I know,
Somewhat.
yeah.
What else, how much more is on the agenda?
That's pretty much it, unless there's no other future topics that.
There were no
We
other-
have, and I don't have the information in here for some reason, the CIP, capital improvement plan,
Well, I have
has
some
been
handouts for that.
updated. We updated the capital improvement plan a number of years ago, and it took us forever. It took us forever to do that the first time,
Oh,
and since then, we've been doing it every single year. And it's just matter, it's quick and easy, do it every year.
Right.
And now, I guess, from what I understand now, everything is in the computer where it just needs to be updated and done.
Right, I'm working on that right now.
Yep.
With Sue Roth, because Sue Roth
Mhm.
may have left the planning board, but she still wants to be active on the CIP.
Yep,
And since she's done that before,
yeah,
she
she's
knows the
been through a
process.
lot of it before.
Right. Now, I wasn't sure on this one. I don't know if you did appoint members every year for the CIP?
Yes.
Do they seem so?
Some members of the planning board, some members of the public that want to get involved.
Right. So that hasn't happened yet.
It has not happened yet. No.
Correct. So that would be
And I didn't realize that it didn't start till September, because I thought we would have started it in June or
Right.
May or June, to get information out to the various departments so they can get back to us in a timely manner. So we can get this, because there's a schedule you have to do to get it to the select board by a certain date.
Right. So I know Sue and Dana have been working on clearing up the application, getting the applications ready to go out to department heads for when we're ready to move on it. And then I have been going through the CIP and updating some of the charts that haven't been updated since 2018. So I'm going through and updating all that information, because there's certain demographic data that just weren't updated, because maybe we didn't have the information, but I'm going through and fixing those charts and getting them up to 2020.
Okay.
I'm almost done that, actually. I've been working on it for the last 3 days.
Good.
And I
Guy's
guess
busy.
He is.
He is. That's
I guess
nice.
that's all I have to discuss. So,
Is there any other topics that people think might be good?
What is the, any other business with limitations of RSA 91A? What is?
So
is that
if
what we
anybody
just-
comes from the public and has a question
Oh,
about
okay,
the business
okay,
for the board,
perfect.
they can ask it. And usually, that's when I bring up
And
stuff, and I do have a couple things. One thing I want to bring up. We had a request from an intern. I was telling Paul about this earlier, who's an intern at New Hampshire DES, and she's trying to compile all the town's groundwater protection districts and ordinances into one portfolio that people can use to look that stuff up. And she had a question regarding our groundwater protection ordinance. She couldn't find Article 3, Part R in our zoning ordinance. I also can't find Article 3, Part R. So I'm wondering if anybody remembers who was involved in writing that ordinance, and we can try to track that down.
before my time.
So,
Jesus Christ, that's a long time.
Yeah.
did you
I'm
ask
not
Sue?
sure, it was 76 years ago.
I've not asked Sue yet, but I just one of those things where that's kind of fun. She's like, well, you're not the only town that has this problem. But I go to look into the ordinance, and then I go to that section, and then I look for Part R. There is no Part R. So it might have been removed in a future. It might have been something that in the past they took out of the zoning ordinance. So finding that.
Have you checked with Sue on that?
So that was one of my steps that I was going to follow in the future. But I was going to ask the board first to see if anybody here knew anything about it or was part of writing it.
Well, seeing as how most of the board is new this, within the last couple of years,
Okay, well, I don't.
I've been
I'm
around
new
a
with
few
the
more
last
years
year.
of that, and I don't remember it.
You don't remember it?
Another source that you might jog in memory on is Chair Buckley.
Okay.
Chair Buckley. He used to
Yeah.
be on the board. He was on the board for a long, long time. So he might have something, knowledge of what that is.
Right. And that way I can get back to her and get her an answer. That way we can help her out in her internship.
Well, and they'll find out where it is.
Where it is.
Where's R?
There's our, what happened to it? It's the hidden.
How about Gamil over there on 103 in Webster? Now, what shakes, can he get away with what he's doing over there on the Gamil? That's part of that's in Webster, is that correct?
If it's in Webster, parts in Warner, parts in Huffman.
Yeah, because I always thought it was just Warner, but yeah.
No, it's some of it.
It's partly.
Yeah.
First I've ever heard of anything with that last name. I'm not
I
aware
don't
of it.
know,
He
I
seems
don't
to-
know what the final verdict from the judge was, but it's gone away now. There hasn't been anything done with that for 3 or 4 years.
I don't-
So the health department can't do anything about, and the hazards over there?
All I can tell you is it was in the hands of the court, and the court doesn't want to do anything, or can't do anything, or won't do anything, or whatever it might be.
They
so-
scared of it?
Can't tell you. I don't know.
I don't.
Well,
really
The rest of us would be in jail.
I have no idea what this is, so.
So when you go to 10, excuse me,
No, that's fine. You're
you
gonna
go to
tell me.
103 to the Villager, next time you go through from here to the Villager, roll your window down. About time after you get to the Davisville, you're headed toward Kentucky, and you'll see all the mess on the left-hand
left
side of the
side.
road. Roll your window down just a shade before you get there.
Which way do you go home? Do you go right, so left? Probably get right on 89, don't you?
I go right to, I think, where I go right, just straight right down, and then go across the bridge, and then go around the highway,
Yeah, yes.
go down to 3A, and then.
Yeah, so if you
Because
went
I saved
left,
the toll, you know.
right. If you went left on your way home sometime,
Yeah.
and then come down into the center of Tookie,
Yeah.
you,
About a half,
wouldn't
about
miss it.
a half a mile
Yeah.
down.
Okay, I'll do it. I'm still getting used to everything in this town.
right.
Though, get pretty familiar with Pillsbury Lake at this point.
But how does that even work if there's a complaint or whatever? Is that when they call you and then you
So
present
that,
it?
we're putting that form up on the website soon for Tom Head to be the code enforcement inspector, so
Oh.
that people can start putting
Yeah.
those in, and then those are gonna go before the select board.
Oh,
Good
okay.
deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that is a disgraceful mess. There's animals there, there's kids there, and it's like you go by there on the highway. The other day, I went through there with a log truck, and he door open on the car. It was right out on the road,
They could
standing
stay.
there.
Mm.
Should I have gone to the right a little?
You ever talk to Judy Jones?
Yes, all the time.
Ask her.
She's a great, useful
Ask her.
person.
Yeah, she would-
for any
she would
She
have
will,
information.
I mean, she's my mother-in-law, and I can tell you, she has plenty to say on this.
Oh, yeah.
So,
But that needs to be addressed, that problem, definitely.
I
Well,
think
that's
the
gonna have
issue
to come
is that
from the
it's
select
multiple
board.
Yeah,
towns,
well, then,
Oh,
and
once
they don't have,
that complaint thing hits.
ask Judy and Judy will tell you.
Going right into the select board court, which
Yeah.
is still my court.
I can think of somebody that probably would complain and then we can bring it to fruition.
Yep, that's kind of how that works. All right,
Or it just happened right now.
You did?
well, I can get you the form.
Ah,
Start it again.
Just sign my name.
Right.
That's what you've been doing, right?
yeah, just keep your windows rolled up when you go by.
You know what it,
Still is bad.
I don't know how you,
Adjourning?
It's an eyesore.
what'd you say?
Are we adjourning?
Yeah, oh, we can do that.
Yeah, we
not
can
get-
do adjourn.
We have any new business to discuss, or we already discussed it?
No, that was it.
Okay. I have nothing else on the agenda, unless anybody has something they want to complain about, bring up, or discuss, or? No?
Yeah,
Good. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
seconded.
Aye?
Aye.
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 All right.
Done.